They go to the announcers. And again, Taz and Tony look fine. You would accept them as, of course, without listening to Tony, they look fine. You would accept them as announcers. And here is this fucking self-indulgent clown in this mask. And it just looks ridiculous. And they do endless show billboards. And then we go to a clip of earlier today, MJF got his AEW tattoo removed and cut a promo while the guy was doing whatever you do to remove the tattoo, because he's mad at the fans for not cheering him when he gave their whatever the case. Then they're in the back again, and Adam Page pulls up in what kind of dinky little pickup truck was that thing, or truck of whatever nature? It had bull horns on it, but it looked like something that kids had put together in a fucking, well, a little soapbox derby contest. What was happening there? You're a man about town and knows about vehicles these days.
I think they said he was driving a Prius, but someone else told me it was a Rivian, which is an electric vehicle that stock has been in the toilet for way too long because they don't know what the fuck they're doing. But it was one of those two with horns on top of it.
So it not only has to be funny, but he has to be a pussy while he's being funny. Stone Cold Steve Austin would come in a beer truck, or The Rock comes in his goddamn giant pickup truck, or, you know, Punk came in a Lamborghini or whatever it was. This guy comes in a fucking pussy little truck with goddamn funny horns on it.
He's socially conscious. That's what you want out of your top babyface, the cowboy hangman. The socially conscious hangman.
I don't know if he's goddamn physically conscious. But he pulled up and walked into the arena, and they played his music, and he made his entrance to the ring, and he beat a job guy in 1 minute or so, and then got the microphone, sat down in a chair, and called out MJF. And MJF comes out to the entranceway and throws a white bloody hand towel down that he was holding. I assumed that he had cut himself shaving. And then for about 45 seconds, MJF was back to his old self. He was cutting the promo, but he was back to being a smart ass. And, you know, he's going back to New York to train his tookus off because he's so scared about Adam Page, and he's mocking him, and he's not screaming, and he's not just cussing for the sake of it. A brief period where we can remember once again the good old days. But then he said, and he was awfully worried about Hangnail's friend, and you should check on him. And then he just turned around and he walked out, and the fans were quiet and puzzled, as well as old Mr. Page, the caca cowboy, because it was kind of, huh? And then here it became. As MJF is walking back through the tunnel to exit stage right, and Page is standing there dumbfounded, like, what did he mean by that? On the screen, we are supposed to see Christopher Daniels laying in the back, bloody and profusely bleeding and having been attacked and left laying. Of course, I guess they became friends, Page and Daniels, right after Page crippled Daniels and ended his career. But nevertheless, check on your friend.
He died a warrior's death, was what he said.
Yeah, well, he shouldn't have been resurrected, but that's what we were supposed to see. But what we saw when they cut to the camera going to the screen is the handheld camera moving up on Chris Daniels while he's knuckling himself in the fucking head. And the first thing you see is this guy that's supposed to have been attacked and beat down, punching his own self in the face. And there was a lot of, there was a lot of controversy, you know, because people said they put it all over Twitter and it trended. And They've caught him blading himself. No, that's not what it was. But they said it's in 4K and everybody's got a shot of either from the show or a shot of their screen showing the show. And look what stupid shit. And how is Uncle Dave going to explain this and all that kind of stuff? Here's what was happening. First, we'll tell you what was happening. Then we'll try to explain why it happened. Chris Daniels, in my opinion, and I watched this in slow motion, I think he did get legitimate color in the back for this angle because I could see some blood oozing from a cut. The way the front of his shirt looked, unless he was just able to really, even without having a sweat worked up and out his blood pumping and not in a match, if he was able to go deep enough to get a gusher to goddamn just sit there and drip on his shirt, maybe they augmented the shirt. I don't know. But I think he did get some color for real. But the problem was apparently by the time that he got in position and, it was waiting for all these other things to happen, it stopped bleeding. Because what he was doing was he was knuckling himself. If you take, and you can go on YouTube on some of the old matches, you might see a guy or two doing this. It's not uncommon if you know what to look for. But if you've got a gig mark, either a fresh gig mark that's quit bleeding, or if you get juice a lot back in the territory days from the previous night before, instead of cutting yourself again, you can knuckle it and it'll start bleeding. You either take the point of the middle knuckle of your middle finger and do what Chris Daniels was doing, boom, 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 right on the cut. Some guys would make a fist and take the bottom knuckle at the hand of their index finger and kind of the back of their fist to their head, which is it looks a little bit less like you're punching yourself in the face. It's not meant to be seen on camera. It's, another little sleight of hand deal. But he was knuckling himself to get it to bleed more. But it was on camera. It was up there with Hulk Hogan on the Saturday night's main event. They'd give me the count, brother, and start crying over Elizabeth's death or whatever. And so then anybody that's seen that can't unsee it. And then this whole thing is fucking shot, but it doesn't end there. Because but did I explain the knuckling correctly? There could have been some augmentation on the shirt. I think it was legitimate blood coming from his head, and that's what he was doing because he was given no idea, apparently, or no count from when he was going to be on camera.
I think that's what he was doing, although that's a horrible defense. He was blading on camera. No, he was just punching himself in the head.
Yeah, he was just trying to open up an old gig, but that explains that. And how it happened, we'll explain in a second because there's more. Because when Paige gets freaked out over seeing his friend laying there, he goes to the back with a chair, and he's walking through the back, and he's screaming, "Where is he? Where is he?" Now the camera is following Paige from behind, so you're looking past him, so you can see that straight out to the back door there of the arena, they're like at least a half a dozen people just standing there. They're not moving. They're not reacting. They're just standing there. And then as Paige turns, you can see that those people would have had a clear view, not only of this Daniels being attacked, but Daniels laying there in a bloody fucking heap. They would have been looking at him already. Is it common that when you're standing in a goddamn public sports arena and you look over 30 feet away and there's a guy laying there covered in blood, that you would not call somebody? But they're standing there. But as Paige turns the corner to the right to go find his friend, the camera's still following him. And in the background, you see the camera crew. The cameraman, the producer, the cable puller, and I think some miscellaneous fucking stooge that were shooting Chris Daniels for the shot on the screen. They either see the camera turn the corner or they are told on an IFB from the truck, "Get the fuck out of the shot." because they suddenly go into ninja mood and crouch down and fucking zoom, like run from the. So they're running out of the shot like little rats as Paige goes over and sees Daniels laying there bloody. And then what does Paige do? He turns around and looks to his left and tells a couple of the people that just ran out of the shot, get over here, help him. And they come over with a fucking Kleenex. And it looks like he's been beheaded, like he's had brain surgery. He's covered in blood. And they come over with a Kleenex to blot his head. But if they were 10 feet away, then why wouldn't they already be administering that aid? Because when Paige said, come here, get in here, help him, they were there in 3 steps. It's a goddamn shit show. And then Paige stalks off after they're applying the compresses to Daniels' head. And
And he double parked.
And he double parked with the ambulance. No, that was Edge with the ambulance.
Yeah, but how are you going to get an ambulance in there?
Prius, well, the Prius with the fucking bullhorns might have gotten away of the ambulance.
That's right.
The point is, now we've said here's why it's happening. And we've heard this. They've been saying this, that they do not have, apparently, I thought they just may have a quick one or an insufficient one. They don't have any production meetings. Because now we're hearing people are saying, well, Tony doesn't have the show ready in time to have a production meeting before they go do it. Or is that because he's still writing it because he's overworked or he's confused? Or is that because, as we've also heard, a lot of the guys just come in and tell him what they're going to fucking do, which is why it looks like a clip show, a series of different vignettes of wrestling rather than an actual cohesive program. And if they don't have a production meeting, then they are not laying it all out in one place in front of the crew for people to see that it's redundancy repeated redundantly. But the production meeting, not to go off on a soapbox here, but the production meeting is not for the matches or the interviews as relates to how the talent performed them. It is for everybody else, the announcers, the crew, the cameraman, the director, the sound, all the other, it is, the production meeting is for how you shoot the matches and the interviews. And even if the people are doing what they're supposed to be doing, if you're not cueing them before you go live to them and they're punching themselves in the face, that's not good. Or if nobody knows how to get out of the way of the other camera and they're doing it on the air, it looked like that show from the BBC, the Goes Wrong show. The production meeting, which again in the WWE of the 90s or F, the production meeting for a pay-per-view that the bell time was at 8:00. We were having a meeting at 11 in the morning. And in TNA for a 7:00, I think, or 8:00 pay-per-view, it would be noon, even TNA. For television, if it was 7 or 7:30, we were ringing the bell. We were doing a production meeting by 1:00. And that's the WWF. They have a big budget. They have a big crew. Still, whatever I've been involved in, the time may change, but Ring of Honor, Smoky Mountain Wrestling, OVW, TNA, NWA, MLW, other productions that I've been involved in, the crew may be smaller or larger. The time may be different because people may be doing 2 or 3 different jobs or, snatch and grab to get them there. But you have to go over the show in front of the head of each department of the production, as well as the main players like the top handheld camera guys and etc. So that and ask the questions that we've talked about here in the past, when a format's read and they just gloss over something that obviously the announcers would have a question about, how do we cover this? Or the director would have a question, well, wait a minute, how you need to shoot that? You ask those questions, then you bring up what can possibly go wrong. what might not be understood by the viewer, even though we know it because we wrote the goddamn thing and they're just watching it. It's a whole nother set of meetings that you have with the talent on the matches and the finishes and the interviews. That's more meetings, which is why this is such a high stress fucking job when you're on a shoestring budget and doing these productions. But there's a lot of details to nail down. If they're either not having production meetings because Tony doesn't have his shit together, or because the guys are still making up their own fucking morality plays, then that's why that these mistakes are happening and that this shit, in some cases, looks so amateur because they're shooting it on the fly based on what somebody, well, yeah, when that happens, just shoot it. Well, it ain't that fucking easy, morons. And a lot of these guys have never been on, any kind of mainstream television production before, but a lot of them have. But that's what first impressed me about, I'm sorry, I'll get off this box in a second. But that's for what first impressed me about MJF when I met him in MLW. He not only came up and was asking questions of us in the announce booth on, not only bringing up things that he might do that we could say or call, but also just asking us questions. And he asked the crew, the technical crew, questions about the setup or the post-production or how will this look. He wanted to learn everything. And that was instantly refreshing because some of these fucking numbnutses have been in the goddamn business where their primary exposure is on television for 10 years and they don't know how to fucking work television or lay television out or give cues for television or goddamn explain their angle or their match or their finish or their whatever they're going to do for the television crew so that they can understand it. And now I'm fucking pissed off now. Your thoughts?
I don't. There was a lot there.
It's ridiculous. I'm sorry, but it just is. You can't do this on national television. We put more preparation into OVW TV.
Well, you hit on something that's a big topic here. The production meetings or lack thereof. We've heard whispers about it, or we've heard direct comments about it for a while. Stories started coming out just recently again. Brian Alvarez talked about it. The idea that there aren't production meetings, the idea that apparently Tony Khan is not done writing the show until so late in the day that they can't do it. What does that tell you? And why would it take so long to write this show? Where there's long multi-segment matches and... I mean, is there anything that would prevent a production meeting that you see?
Well, but yes, there is. Not that it's not necessary, but I can see what they're doing. There's not just long multi-segment matches, but there's multiple run-ins and everything. And we just saw the fuck up with Thunder Rosa and the other Megan Brain and Penelope Pitstop or whatever, where they didn't know what the fuck was going on, or obviously some part of that equation didn't know what was going on. And if it's last minute shit and inexperienced people, we don't know. But the point is that, again, like I said, it's not that there's a lot of shit going on these shows. There's too much going on, but they could be written in time to do them professionally. And if you are not doing them at the point where they can be finished at noon or 1 the day of the show so you can tell everybody how to do their job, then you need to change the way you're doing the fucking show, don't you? And again, is it because we know that Tony will stay up for hours on end writing wrestling and talking about wrestling, but is it not done because he's waiting after he tells these guys what he wants them to do, what they go and figure out what they're going to do. And then they come back and tell him, and then he knows. I mean, because none of this is cohesive. It wasn't written from one mindset from start to finish as a program with thought given to not repeating the same kind of angles or using the same kind of objects or doing the same things in the finishes or the afterbirths or even allotting a certain number of shits and other miscellaneous curse words to specific people. It's just whatever gets fucking done in a segment. So is Tony waiting for instructions and then, it's too late to give it out? Or is he just having a nervous breakdown, a mental collapse, and is rushing to make it to air? But something needs to be done different. I mean, we're seeing this more often now.
Even if you're a control freak and it's just about you wanting control over your show, you still have to make sure the production knows what to shoot and what not to shoot and when to do it.
Well, and maybe is this the reason behind the fake walls that they were infatuated with there for a while, wherever they would build a fake drywall wall in an arena to put somebody through it? Were they not consulting the producer of the entire show and the director or anybody in the truck, a cameraman, to say, well, no, that's going to look as phony as a football bat. Of course you can't do that like that. We can't shoot it that way. Is the production crew seeing this for the first time? They're just saying, he's going to run him through the wall and just shoot it. And then so they don't know how to shoot around the fact that there's no stud for 6 feet, which would be against every building code in the United States of America. This shit has to be gone over. It's details. Why do you think I'm a fucking insane person? I'm thinking of all those goddamn things that could go wrong on television shows for 25 fucking years. But you have to. You have to think of everything that can go wrong and walk through every way you can shoot everything. And there's been many times in the past where I couldn't do that because we didn't have the budget or the time, and we were shooting a TV show in a fucking closet somewhere. But at that level, with that budget and that amount of people working for you, every detail ought to be nailed down. That's just my fucking point. This is ridiculous. But anyway, I want to see a meme on Twitter of that camera crew scurrying away from the shot when they realize that they're in Paige's camera.